Shabbat Shalom, welcome back to the Light to the Nations channel. It's been a really long time, around 2 months, without sharing with you a new video. It's been a difficult time with several trials since Sukkot and a lot of challenges. But the important thing is that here we are again. I'm very happy to share with you a new video, a new study of the Debar of YaHuWaH. I want to thank you, all of you, for the emails and also for your prayers. I know that many of you has been praying for me. You are also in my prayers, so I thank you, YaHuWaH, for having you praying for me as well. So today in this Shabbat, I want to share with you something that I was able to learn around 2 years ago, and it's the answer to an important question: is who is our neighbor? And you know, this information or this teaching I haven't heard in any place, and I learned it directly from here, from the Debar of YaHuWaH. And it's very important because for those of us that are coming from Christianity or have been practicing religion in the past, we know that there is a kind of misconception, or it's an assumption basically, on who is our neighbor. You know, in the past I used to believe that our neighbor is everybody. But what I'm going to share with you, that what this amazing book teaches is something different. Okay? So today we're not going to use any presentation, so we're going to read just the Debar of YaHuWaH. So like always in all the previous videos, my invitation is that you take your scripture, read along with me, and also don't trust just in my words. You don't need to trust me, you don't need to trust anybody else, you need to trust just YaHuWaH and what is written here. Okay? Because here is the truth. Why is so important to understand who is our neighbor? And most probably you already know, and anyways, it's important to mention because we read here throughout the entire scripture that there is many references and many mitzvot, commandments, that are related to our neighbors. So it's very important that we understand who is our neighbor, because that's the only way that we are going to be able to put in practice in our own lives those commandments and those words of wisdom. So just to give an example, and this is going to be in the words of our Mashiach, Yahushua, about the importance to understand who is our neighbor. We will go to the book of Matityahu. I have my notes here. The book of Matityahu, chapter 22. Matityahu, chapter 22. This is in the verse 34 to 40. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 22, Matityahu, verse 34 to 40. And this is an amazing story because it's basically, we will see the Purushim, the Pharisees, coming again, like in many other occasions, to our Mashiach, trying him and trying to put some test on him, to see if he was teaching the truth or not. They were doing this all the time. So it reads the following, starting in the verse 34. It says, "But the Pharisees, having heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, were gathered together. And one of them, one learned in the Torah, did question, trying him and saying," and this is very important because the person that was trying our Mashiach was a person learned in the Torah. He knew every word of the Torah, so that's why the question that he was making was very important. And he said in the verse 36, Teacher, which is the great command in the Torah? It's an important question. And this is the answer from Yahushua in the verse 37. And Yahushua said to him, you shall love YaHuWaH your Elohim with all your heart, and with all your being, and with all your mind. This is the first and great mitzvah command. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commands, in these two mitzvot, hang all the Torah and the Nebi'im, the prophets. So we see Yahushua here citing the Torah, basically answering to this person learning the Torah, what are the two great mitzvot in the Torah? The first one, that we need to love YaHuWaH with all our being, with all our strength, with all our mind. And the second greatest commandment is that we need to love our neighbor as yourself. So if Yahushua himself is teaching us that we need to love our neighbor, and this is the second greatest commandment in the Torah, and this is basically these two great commandments, great mitzvot, are summarizing the entire Torah and the Nebi'im. We need to understand who is our neighbor in order to be able to fulfill and put in practice this commandment. And before moving ahead, just one comment, because it's important what Yahushua is teaching us about love here. The first commandment, the greatest commandment, is to love YaHuWaH, and then is to love our neighbor. So we have a responsibility always to YaHuWaH first, and then to the rest. And it is important to understand these priorities. The priority number one in our lives is to love YaHuWaH. Everything, every decision we need to do in our lives, every day of our life, YaHuWaH needs to be in the number one position, always. Our love to YaHuWaH needs to be our criteria to make our decisions. And then all the rest of the commandments, understanding that the second one is to love our neighbors. Important to understand this. So, I told you a few minutes ago that the misconception that everybody had, and I was part of it until 2 years ago, that our neighbors is everyone. Every people, every person is our neighbor. So how we can understand the answer to this question? And we found this, we have two witnesses, and keep in mind that what I have been sharing with you, that in order to find the truth, and it's not my teaching, this is what we find directly here in the Debar of YaHuWaH. In order to find the truth, we need to have at least two witnesses. And we have two witnesses in order to understand the answer to these important questions. And these two witnesses are in the Brit Hadashah, in the Messianic scriptures. And believe it or not, the first witness we are gonna review, we will see that this same question was asked to Yahushua around 2,000 years ago. Exactly the same question. And we will see it, and this is in the book of Lucas. The book of Luke, chapter 10, verse 25 to 37. Lucas, chapter 10, verse 25 and 37. And I have to say this, I'm really enjoy sharing the word of YaHuWaH with you, especially in a Shabbat. I was missing a lot to do this with you. It's a real beracha, it's a real blessing. So this is Lucas chapter 10, verse 25 to 37. So it says the following. And see, a certain one learned in the Torah, stood up trying him, and saying, Teacher, what should I do to inherit everlasting life? So again, we see other person trying our Mashiach, trying Yahushua. And this person also was a learner in the Torah. He knew the Torah. So the question that he was asking Yahushua is very important. What shall I do to inherit everlasting life? And Yahushua said to him, what has been written in the Torah? How do you read it? And this person answered to Yahushua, saying in the verse 27, you shall love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart, and with all your being, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. So the answer, in order to inherit everlasting life, and this is very important, this is totally a side topic, but it's very important. In order to inherit everlasting life, we need to follow Torah. This is basically the answer that we are seeing here. Because by doing these commandments, Yahushua is teaching us that we need to follow the entire Torah. These commandments are summarizing the Torah. So the answer from Yahushua, just to understand what I just said, is in the verse 28. It says, and he said to him, Yahushua said to this person, to this man, you have answered rightly. Do this and you shall live. So basically Yahushua is reinforcing the idea that in order to inherit everlasting life, we need to do the Torah of YaHuWaH. Okay? But let's continue, because this is the interesting part for the answer that we're looking for. Who is our neighbor? It says in the verse 29, but he, this man, wishing to declare himself righteous, said to Yahushua, and who is my neighbor? So this is the the same question that we are asking today. For sure, we are not trying to declare ourselves righteous. The only way that we are going to be righteous is following Mashiach and follow Torah. Because if we follow Mashiach, we will be following Torah as well. But this person asked exactly the same question, and this is very important and amazing, because this is the way, in the words of Yahushua, that we are able to understand who is our neighbor. So what was the answer from Yahushua? We're going to read it. It says in the verse 30, and replying Yahushua said, he replied with a parable, and this is an amazing parable because it's the parable of the Good Samaritan, the Good Shemaroni. So it says the following, and replying Yahushua said, a certain man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and fell among robbers, who both stripping and beating him went away, leaving him half dead. Most probably you already know and have heard a lot of time and many times this parable, but it's important that we read each one of the verses just to understand the answer from Yahushua to this important question. So let's continue in the verse 31. And by a coincidence, a certain Kohen, a certain priest, was going down that way. And when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. Okay? So we see that a Kohen, a priest, that a person that's supposed to practice Torah, practice the way of righteousness, the way of YaHuWaH, he saw this person half dead and did nothing. Okay? So let's continue. Verse 32. And likewise, a Levite also, when he came to the place and seeing, passed by on the other side. So we see here a Levite, also a person that was in charge and participating in the work of the Hechal, the temple of YaHuWaH. Knowing the Torah, part of his responsibility also was to guide the people in the ways of YaHuWaH. Also, he did nothing. So let's continue in verse 33. But a certain Shomeroni, a certain Samaritan, Shomeroni is the word in Hebrew, yearning came upon him, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him. So this is very important because, you know, the people of Shomeron, the people of Samaria, when you read the historical context in the Debar of YaHuWaH, most of those people were people that was put by the Assyrian kingdom when they took out the 10 tribes of Israel, of the house of Israel, the lost sheep of the house of Israel. They replaced the house of Israel with people that they brought from Assyria. So the Shomeronim was part of the descendant of those people. So there was a tremendous fight and a tremendous disconnection between the house of YaHuWaH, the Jews, the Yahudim on that time, with the people of Shomeron. So there was a kind of fight, and we see many examples in the Brit Hadashah about that. Okay, so it says the following: a certain Shomeroni, and why I mentioned this, because it's important that Yahushua using the example in the parable of a Shomeroni in order to answer this important question. This is very important and critical, and I'm going to explain later why it's important to understand this part in the parable of Yahushua. It says again, but a certain Shomeroni journey came upon him, upon to the person that was robbed and was half dead. And when he saw him, he had compassion on him. And he went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring an oil and wine. And having placed him on his own beast, he brought him to an inn and looked after him. So this Shomeroni took care of this person that was wounded and half dead. He was cleaning his wounds and also put some bandage in the wounds, and he took in his own beast. He was taking care, and he brought him to a place that he was able to rest, and he was looking after him, taking care of him. Those aspects are very important for the answer that we are looking for. So verse 35, and going out on the next day, he took out 2 denarii, important information, okay, gave them to the innkeeper and said to him, look after him, and whatever more you spend, I shall repay you when I return. So, in addition, on top of everything that he had done for this half a dead guy, this Shomeroni took from his own money and gave it to the innkeeper, the person, the manager in charge of this inn, and he was instructing him to look after this person, this wounded person. And even more, if he was spending more money, this Shomeroni was willing to pay that money to the person, the manager in charge of the inn. Important information, because we see how much compassion this Shomeroni had over this half-dead man. Okay, so let's continue in the verse 36 and 37, and pay attention here, because in these 2 verses we will find the answer that we are looking for. So Yahushua already completed the parable, and now after completing the parable, he's asking a question to the man learning the Torah. And this is the question from Yahushua: who then of these 3? What 3? We're talking about the priest, the Levite, and the Shomeroni in the parable provided from Yahushua. Those are the 3. So let's continue. Who then of these 3 do you think was neighbor to him who fell among the robbers? And this is very important to understand how Yahushua is asking this question, because Yahushua is placing the title of neighbor on these 3 possibilities, on the priest, the Levite, or the Shomeroni. He's not placing the title of neighbor on the person that fell among the robbers, because he's asking who of these 3 was neighbor to him. So most of the interpretation that I have heard during my years following the Christianity and following Torah, now is the interpretation of this question is in the opposite direction. Everybody's placing the title of neighbor on the person that fell among the robbers. But Yahushua is making something totally different. He's placing the title of neighbor on the three possibilities. So how we understand this? Our neighbor, we need to look into the direction of the person that is doing something for us. It's not the person that we are doing something for them. Our neighbor is the one that is the person that is doing something for us. And how we can confirm this? This is in the verse 37. Here is the answer. And the man learning the Torah said, he who showed compassion on him. Then Yahushua said to him, go and do likewise. So Yahushua is reinforcing the idea and reinforcing the answer that this guy provided. That basically, who is the neighbor in this parable? Is the Shomeroni. Because the Shomeroni was the one having compassion on the man that fell among the robbers. So if we want to summarize basically what we have been checking so far, if we go to verse 29 to check the question again, it says, and who is my neighbor? That was the question from the learning the Torah. The answer to that is in the verse 37, the one showing compassion. So what it means, the one showing compassion? What the Shomeroni did? First, he saw the person that fell among the robbers in problems and wounded and half dead. And the first thing that he was internally in his heart and his mind it was compassion. He had compassion on him and he went to help him. So basically, who is our neighbor? The one showing compassion to us, the one that is helping us. And what was the help that he was providing? First, he was providing bandage to his wounds. He was taking care of the wounds, okay, cleaning the wounds with oil and wine and so on. And also, what else he did? He brought this person, this half-dead person, to a place that was where he was able to recover himself and rest and so on. And not only that, he paid. He provided from his own own riches. He paid. He provided money. He provided financial support to the person that was half dead. So in this case, if we want to summarize, taking in consideration what we are seeing here, is that who is our neighbor? And before doing that, it's important because what I need to mention, because he in the parable of Yahushua, this Shomeroni not only provided the money in the moment or the financial support in the moment, he also instructed the manager in charge of the place to take care of this person. So he was inviting others in order to participate in taking care of the person that was wounded and half dead. And even more, he was willing to provide even more financial support if it was required. So it is important to understand all of those aspects in order to understand the question in our own lives. Because as we saw at the beginning, we need to understand and we need to identify who are the neighbors in our life. That's the only way that we're going to be able to practice properly the commandments of YaHuWaH. So if I want to summarize, who is our neighbor? First, our neighbors are the ones that are showing compassion on us, and those ones that are loving us. And it's important. What is love? And this is a tremendous question, but it's not the love that the word is teaching us and providing information to us everywhere. The love of YaHuWaH, the love that YaHuWaH is teaching us in the scripture, is like faith. It's like emunah. It's not only the feeling, it's also the action. So we see what was the love of the Shomeroni with everything that he did for this person. So our neighbors are the ones that are showing compassion to us and also loving us. Our neighbor is the one that is helping us in any possible way. Who is our neighbor? Is the one that is taking care of us physically and emotionally. And who is our neighbor, is the one that is providing to us to cover to our needs and providing anything that we need, basically. Okay? There is an expression that we use in Spanish that we see is the one that is not está haciendo la vista gorda. What is the interpretation in English to that? Is the one that is not turning blind his eye. I think that's the interpretation in English. So those are the characteristics that the Yahushua in this parable is teaching us in order for us to make it easier for us to identify who is our neighbor. Okay, so I know that this is changing a lot of concept and the focus and the interpretation of many things that we have in the past. It happened to me 2 years ago when I learned this truth. Because we see that the Torah of YaHuWaH is not burdensome. We see in the commandments that we need to love our neighbor as ourselves. And how we can understand this now, that who is our neighbor? The one that is taking care of us in any possible way. It's not everyone. It's not any person. It's the one that is taking care of us. To those persons, to those people, YaHuWaH is teaching us in his Debar that we need to love them as ourselves. How we are not able to love the person as ourselves, the person that is helping us every time in every possible way. This is what Yahushua, this is what YaHuWaH and his Debar is teaching us in order to understand who is our neighbor. So I'm going to provide you the second witness, and with this we are going to complete this video study. And the second witness is a little bit more difficult to understand, but I want to do my best in order to explain it and for you to see it. And this is in the book of Yaakov. This is the book of James. Yaakov chapter 2. James, Jacob chapter 2, verse 1 to 9. Okay? And it says the following: My brothers, do not hold the belief of our Master Yahushua Mashiach, the Master of Steam, with partiality. So important that everything that we are going to read here in this passage is talking about showing partiality to others, okay, between people. Okay, it's important. This is the concept and the entire reading that we're going to have. So let's continue in the verse 2. For if there should come into your meeting place a man with gold rings in a splendid robe, and there should also come in a poor one dressed in rags. So basically the example that Jacob is providing is that if they're coming to the assembly or to the meeting, two kind of people, one that is rich and the other one that is poor. Okay, important to see the differences, just to understand what I'm going to explain to you. The verse 3 says, and you pay attention to the one wearing the splendid robe, and said to him, you sit here in a good place, and say to the poor one, you stand there, or sit here to my feet. Basically, it's talking about discrimination and showing partiality. Okay. Verse 4, have you not discriminated among yourselves and become judges with wicked thoughts? So basically it's talking about how we are going to have wicked thoughts in order to discriminate the poor person and giving favor to the rich one. So we are showing partiality in this example. So let's continue in the verse 5. Listen, my beloved brothers. Has Elohim not chosen the poor of this world, rich in belief, and heirs of the reign which he promised to those who love him? But you have shown disrespect toward the poor man. Do not the rich oppress you and drag you into the courts? Do they not blaspheme that good name by which you are called? And this is important because everything that is Jacob is providing to us is basically telling us that we don't have to show partiality. We need to respect everyone, okay? But in verse 8 and verse 9, he's providing an important information. And this is the part that I need you to pay attention and understand what he's saying. Okay? Because we have in the example two persons, the rich and the poor. And in the example that he's providing, he's saying that we are the assembly is providing favor to the rich instead of the poor. But he's saying in the verse 8, if you truly accomplish the sovereign law according to the scripture, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, you do well. But if you show partiality, you commit sin, being found guilty by the Torah as transgressors. So, what we are seeing here, that Jacob is saying, if you are accomplishing the sovereign law, the sovereign mitzvah, the sovereign commandment, to love our neighbor as ourselves, we are doing good. What is he saying? That if we are giving favor to the rich, because the rich is our neighbor, we are accomplishing. If that's the reason that we are giving favor to the rich because it's our neighbor, we are doing good because we are basically accomplishing the sovereign law that we need to love our neighbor as ourselves. But that's why he's saying in the verse 9, but if we show partiality, we commit sin, being found guilty by the Torah. So if we are giving, basically what he's saying, if we are giving favor and we are being partial, but giving favor to the rich instead of the poor, and the rich is not our neighbor, basically we're committing sin because we are showing partiality. But if the rich one, the reason that we are giving the rich one a favor in order to sit in the best place, in this example, is because the rich one is our neighbor, we are doing good. This is what Jacob is saying, and this is basically the second witness, that in this case, the rich one is the one that maybe is providing to us, and that's why we are providing favor to him in order to sit in the best place. So this is the second witness that we have in the Debar of YaHuWaH, and as I told you, it's a little bit difficult to understand that one. So read it again and study it again during this Shabbat, because as you read it, by being led by the Ruach HaKodesh, you will see it in the same way that I'm explaining to you. So just to complete this video study, and it's important to mention, because you can have several questions. Okay, if the neighbor is only those one that are taking care of us, so it means that that we don't need to love the person that are not our neighbor. Not at all, because if we see different commandments in the Torah, basically, and in the entire scripture. We see commandments provided by Yahushua that we need to love one another. We need to love our brothers. And this other question, we need to understand who is our brother. But also we see commandments that we need to love and take care of widows, poor, orphans, and also we need to take care of the strangers. And even more, Yahushua is saying that we need to love our enemies. Okay? Because even the tax collector show love to his friends and neighbors, but even Yahushua is pushing us to love our enemies. So by saying that our neighbors are only those ones that are taking care of ourselves and showing compassion, taking care of us and showing compassion to us, that we are nullifying and we don't need to show love to others, not at all, because we have other commandments that are teaching us to provide love, to provide care of different people in our lives. Okay? But the important aspect to complete this video study is that we need to understand who is our neighbor in our life. We need to identify our neighbors in our lives, understanding this truth from the Debar of YaHuWaH. This is the only way that we're going to be able to do the Torah of YaHuWaH, to practice the Torah of YaHuWaH in our own lives. Understanding that the neighbor, who is our neighbor? The one that is showing compassion. For example, our parents, are they our neighbor? For sure they are, because they are taking care of us. And this is important thing that we can start doing this exercise just to understand and identify our neighbors. Is Yahuwah our neighbor? for sure is our neighbor, because he's taking care of us in every aspect of our life. That's why Yahushua is saying that the Torah is summarized in these two commandments, in loving Yahuwah and loving our neighbor. Because if we start to doing the exercise on who is our neighbor, who is the one that is showing compassion to us, we will see that most of the people that are surrounding us, or people that are around us, in our work, our friends, our family, or people that we have known in different situations of our life. Even I can give you different examples on strangers that have been in very important moments in my life, that I have met them for 5 or 10 minutes. They were showing and helping me, showing compassion of me. Those persons are my neighbors as well. So we will see that we are surrounded for many people that are our neighbors. That's why it's important to understand the description of who is our neighbor, because as soon as we understand the description, we will identify our neighbors in our lives, and we are going to be able to live the Debar of YaHuWaH and practice the Debar of YaHuWaH with those persons. Okay? So this is what I had to share with you. Study this topic is very important. Check the video again. Read the Debar of YaHuWaH. That's the most important thing with the text that I have been providing to you. And the most important thing, let the Ruach HaKodesh guide you here in your heart in order to understand this truth. It's not my truth, it's written in the Debar of YaHuWaH. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Todah rabah for watching and following these studies. Todah rabah again for your prayers and your support and your love for me. You are my neighbors as well. Those ones of you that are supporting me and praying for me, you are my neighbors. So I thank Yahuwah for all of you that are praying for me and supporting me. And I hope to see you soon in the next video. I'm preparing some material for a new teaching. I hope to upload a new video very soon. So keep praying for me, and I'm praying for you as well every day. So again, Todah rabah, Shabbat Shalom, and Yahuwah be with you all.